All right, we've started looking at our cladding trim and see if we can't knock out some of these grocery store dings. The first one I attempted to work on here was right there. You can see it glimmering in the light. I have some strips of this just junk wood 1x2, and I ripped that in half with a table saw and made myself a couple of nice wide soft flat pieces to tap with. So I started on this one. That was a little more severe than that before I started. It was somewhat similar to that one. It's on the edge, so it's a little challenging. So I tapped on it a good bit with the wood. And if you've ever looked at the paintless dent removal guys, they have a series of very sharp tools, and they come in from the back side. That may be, in fact, what is needed for this. I might be able to, now that I think about it, I might be able to take this trim down to one of those paintless dent repair guys and let them work on it. But then again, there's a lot of there's a lot of dings in there. They might charge me a small fortune to do that. So then I thought about, well, sharp, pointy stuff. Okay, then I just took the corner of a screwdriver, very lightly, mind you. I got back there and started. You can see a couple of the marks where I was just lightly pressing to try to get the dent out. So I'm kind of refining the technique. A couple of other places are right here. These were a little more pronounced. I simply was working on these with the blunt end of the wood, and you can see some tapping marks there. So both methods provide results, but I don't know if it one or the other, or probably it come down to a combination of the two. I highly doubt anyone could get this perfect, but we're going to give it our best shot here. So let's see what happens. So these small ones like this, you can see that one right there. I'm going to try to work on that one next. So what I'm doing is I'll take on the other side, I'll come in here with the corner of the wood, and as I tap on that corner, I'll move the wood along in that direction. And that seems to be doing pretty well for now until I come up with something different. All right, so the spot that I just showed you was right in this area here. And you can see that we were nearly successful in removing it. You can see a slight indentation there. But that was an easy one. Some of them are much more difficult. So my technique, I think, this is the first one I tried to work on, and it's right on the edge. That was stupid. I should have picked an easier one. I'm going to go back to these others. This one right here. Let's see if we can't fix that one using the new technique. Stand by. All right, so I've been working on these two. This one here and that one there. So if you rewind the video, you might be able to see it's a little better. Still need to work on them some more, I guess. But we're going to continue on. All right, so enough of that fine-tuned detail stuff. I'm going to continue on working on the dents on this piece of trim. And we'll get back to you here in just a little while. All right, this is what we have. We got our drill press set on about 3,000 RPMs. We got our belt switched up top to get us up to that speed. And we've got our cotton wheel there, and we got some fairly aggressive rouge. So we're going to apply some of that to our buffing wheel. And I think you know where this is going next. So the basic process is me using two hands, because I'm not going to do this one-handed. All right, so there's the scratches right there that we saw earlier. I've already been working on this end down here and got a lot of them gone. A lot of the scratches have been removed. So I'm going to continue on buffing this guy. And let me see if I can't put my camera up on the stand and give you a bird's eye view. All right, I made a lot of progress with dent removal, but I got to an impasse and I realized that it had so many scratches in it that it kind of interfered with my ability to see the dents. I know, I know, I know you can see them on the camera because of the light just glistening off of the surface of the trim. But I decided to go ahead and polish it and then come back to the dent removal after a lot of the scratches had been removed, so it would help me see the dents. For reference, this is the dent I started with earlier today, and I went all the way down the trim. Of course, this end here was worse. It was far worse. So you can see, you know, it's kind of ripply where the dents were. Well, they still are. They're just not as bad. So I've got a lot of work to do yet. I don't know how far I can take this. I've got a scratch right here. I got some polishing compound that's one heavier than what I was just using. So I'll probably concentrate on that, try to get that scratch out. So I think I'm going to use a combination of tactics. I think what I'm going to do is cut myself a piece of wood that will slip up in here, and I can take the trim and set it possibly on top of it. And then take another piece and then sandwich them together and try to take some of the ripples out and try to flatten it that way. That's just a theory. I don't know. How many times have I ever straightened Mercedes-126 door cladding trim before? The answer would be never. But it is shiny. It looks a lot better than it did. Okay, I've got some work to do, folks. Up next, I'm going to work on these dents some more, and then I'm going to repolish it with progressively finer and finer grits on the polishing wheel. All right, so the process of taking the dents out of this trim continues. So what I've done here is I've taken another piece of wood. It's a little wider, but it covers the whole inside of the trim piece right there. And I place another piece of wood on top of it, and then I tap on that one, and I go along like that. And because the wood it has a lot less rebound, or actually, I guess it would have more rebound. And I'm able to more readily to remove the dents. And I worked on this section right here, and I think you'll agree that it turned out pretty well. So I've got, you can see those in the reflection. Just as an example, I still have to work on those. Down on this end, it's a little worse, but I think if you looked at this trim in an earlier video, you'll agree that it's a lot better than it was. All right, so instead of using the towel, because it has a lot of give to it, I'm going to use wood underneath, and we're going to continue this process. We're going to try to straighten this trim as best we can before we get it on the car. All right, that's the first pass with a fairly coarse rouge on the polishing wheel, and you can see a couple of ripples here and there from previous damage. I didn't work on that end down there. I really didn't notice it until I put a polish on it. If you look at it in the reflection of the light overhead, like if there's a dark surface reflecting against it, you can't see it. Depending upon the angle, you can see it. So the dent itself is not deep anymore. It looks a lot better, but then again, I'm being typically hypercritical. I don't know what could be done to this trim to restore it to its originality other than putting it in some sort of high pressure rolling system, maybe with a roller on either side to press inward and roll along like this. I'm making an assumption there. I don't have any metalworking equipment, and so I'm just making an assumption about how you would repair that. But for now, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to stop right here. This piece is looking pretty good. It's about as good as I can get it. And what I'll do with these two is I will progressively go to finer and finer polishing compounds. And lastly, we'll clean them up with soap and water before we get them back on the car. And that's what we'll do with these trim pieces as well. We'll just wash them up with soap and water. Maybe put a little rubbing compound on them to spruce them up just a little bit, maybe a little wax. But for now, my point is to get the cladding tightened against the door with the new clips that I have on order, and get the stainless steel trim back on there as well in the proper orientation, and without so many dents. So, all right, we'll carry on. All right, so that's looking quite gnarly. I think we're going to break out a little soap and water and clean up the side of our car before we put our trim back on. I don't think any of this is rust. It's just dirt. But we'll clean this up. And I may take a dab of that Permatex rust preventative, or that rust converter stuff. It turns it black. I'll put a dab of that in each hole. And then after I'm done with that, I'll take a tip from Vito at Vito's Garage, and I'll put a dab of grease in each hole as well, and prevent any further rust. Again, this down here is not rust, I don't think. It's just dirt. It's just nasty. So let's get after this with some soap and water and see how it turns out. All right, it's a cheap tool extravaganza. Yeah, so I've seen this set of tools around the internet sold under various brand names. And I'm going to guess they're probably all made in the same factory. However, these appear to be a cheap knockoff of some good trim removal plier. I'm going to call them pliers. They're not really pliers. They're pullers, really. And when you squeeze the handle, you get that action there, right? So you can separate two pieces of trim or a clip or what have you. You notice that the craftsmanship or the lack thereof is really pretty evident. You've got this lip right here. It's not ground down or sanded smooth. They just got it to the basic shape and threw some paint on it and put it in the package and sold it. But for my purposes, I think it'll work okay. At least I hope it will. So we'll find out. All right, so now my goal is to remove the clips from the fender that are still stuck in the car. And let's go ahead and get into our package here. Let's see, where's my knife? Oh, there it is. Okay. Where do I start? Let's go for the top. We have several little pry bars here. This is a really nice one. Seems quite versatile. This one is quite large. I'm not sure what you would use that for. This one looks like it's going to come in handy for our purposes to remove the trim off of this car. Either this or this. I'm going to try both and see how well they work. I've cleaned up this area, and I'm going to try the little blue pry bar first. These black clips here, they are inserted into these plugs into the body of the car. So I want to remove the black clip and leave the plug in place. But I don't want to bend the car or scratch it. Plastic pry bar, pass. I got this retainer out without damaging it. That's kind of nice. I'm going to try these little clip removal pliers first. So the shaft of the clip will fit right up in this V. And these two outside parts will press on the plastic plug down inside the car. I need to get it situated just right so that I get the proper grip. Clearly this is a little harder to use because this is not meant for this application, I don't think. But I'm going to try it anyway. You probably can't see anything from my hand. All right, now I got it in place. Now we're just going to squeeze so the outside part is going to press inward on the plug, and the inner part is going to pull outward on the pin. Okay, well, my initial reaction was to place my hand over that to keep the plug from flying out, and I should have left my hand there because I now do not know where it went. Okay, so that was somewhat comical. Let's go back to the pry bar. There we go. Yeah, you want to put your hand up there, otherwise it's going to fly across the room. All right, that's what that looks like. These are the plugs I was telling you about. They seem to be in good condition. Yeah, I've only got one remaining clip on this part of the door, and I still need to clean this section up before we can get our new trim on. So really what we're doing right now is waiting on all of the new clips that go into these holes here and here, and that also go into the trim work. So they're on order, and I don't really expect them to get here until, probably until the end of January. All right, so I think I found a little fender bender here, folks. You can probably see right here. You see this lip right here? See that? This is the exterior, and it drops inward. You probably can't see it. Yeah, there you can. You can see it now. Anyway, so it looks like somebody had a little, you know, they approached another car bumper or something, and it went in here and made an indentation. It's probably the reason why the trim work was barely hanging on. They probably got in here and sort of did a, I don't know, kind of a hack job on repairing and got the trim back on the car as best they could, and just went on about their business. I will say this piece of fender trim fit on the car really nicely and was quite tight. I'm not going to do anything about this because there's no rust. You put the trim over it and you just don't worry about it. It will be completely invisible and out of sight, out of mind. So we're going to move on. So we have, looks like a little bit of bare metal right here and right down here. It looks worse in the LED lighting of the camera than it really is. However, I'm going to put some Permatex rust converter on that and some right there as well. Plus, at some point, I'm probably going to have the car painted anyway. So, you know, it's not a huge deal for me right now. All right, so let me get the Permatex out of the cabinet and touch that up. All right, this stuff gets a little nasty over time. And what you want to do, you want to pour some of your rust converter into the top or the cap or some separate container. You don't want to dip your brush back into the container because you'll convert your rust converter. You'll contaminate it. So I've just got some cheap brushes here, and we'll just dab that on there and it'll be okay. A little more. It won't hurt the paint or anything like that. It's not a big deal, but we definitely want to get it on there in a liberal fashion. And I'm going to get some around the holes as well. And this is just, again, this is just precautionary, right? Because at some point we're going to paint this car, and when we do get around to it, I don't want any problems. Hey, look at that. There's a big old spot down there. You know, the trim will cover all this mess up, but the only people that will know that this is there is just, it's just me and you. So you guys keep it under your hat, okay? All right, there we go. Starting to get some runs already. That's okay. No big deal. All right, so I'm going to finish this up, and then after it dries, in a day or two, I'll put a little grease on these holes to make sure that we are protected from moisture. Well, all right, folks, that's all we've got time for today. We're still waiting on parts, and it may take another 3 weeks for them to arrive. I believe they're coming all the way from Germany. I appreciate you guys stopping by my channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to be notified whenever I release a new video, don't forget to click that little bell down below. We'll talk to you guys later, and remember, enjoy driving your classic Mercedes. And when you squeeze the handle, you get this action here.